Hello, critical thinkers. Hope all is well. Tonight, 10:15, we're going over a very, very, very important update, right? So right now on the screen, you see Ruby Rivera. Ruby, say hi to everybody out there.
Hello, how are you? Oh,
Yeah. So a lot of people have been following the Christopher Quiles case. They're also following Messiah Nantwi. And the interview that we did very well. They got over 1,500 views and a whole lot of comments. People care about Christopher. People care about him. And I had mentioned in a different video, people want to see the same charges, but people want to see these officers who were involved charged in his brutal beating. So for those of you who don't know, I'm going to give a very, very quick summary of what happened. So the day before Messiah Nantwi was murdered at Mid-State Correctional Facility, Christopher Quiles was savagely beaten by a couple of those officers who were involved in the death of Messiah Nantwi. Okay, this occurred the day before Messiah Nantwi was murdered. Ruby Rivera, his aunt, who you see on the screen, attempted to intervene. She went to the facility. She emailed first asking about her nephew, and they basically said that he was okay. Is that accurate,
that is
Ruby?
that
Yeah,
is
so they basically lied, right? They basically lied. She went to the facility, didn't get any answers. She even went to a state trooper to have a wellness check done, and they were not able to go into the facility and do a wellness check for Christopher. She heard about this through the family members of those incarcerated who were in the same housing unit as Christopher. So, can you just put yourself in her shoes, getting a call from a family member of someone who's incarcerated telling you that your nephew was savagely beaten? Just let that sink in for a second. How do you think you would feel if that was you, right? How would you feel, you know, the feeling of potential, like feeling powerless, not being able to do something about it immediately? That's not a good feeling. So this is what Ruby went through. Okay, and I'm sure there's a lot that she went through that she spoke about in the previous interview that we did. So because and Ruby, we have to give a special shout out to Sarah Wallace, right? Because Sarah Wallace has been covering the shit out of this case. She's been covering. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be cursing, but I get worked up. So Sarah Wallace has been covering this case. She's been covering, Robert Brooks, Messiah Nantwi, Keon Walker, and so we cannot forget about the names of those individuals who are not passed away. It's easy for the media to want to showcase these cases of people who have been brutalized and killed behind bars. But for every one person that's killed, there's most likely at least 100 of other individuals who are being beaten, and nothing is being done about it. Nothing is being done about it. And the only reason why something is being done in Christopher's case now is because of Sarah Wallace and the media, the media coverage that's been happening. Okay, so Ruby, this is going to be the first time that we do this on the show. Why don't we take a look at the Sarah Wallace coverage, right? And if you want me to pause it and stop it so you can, give your commentary, please do so. I may pause it and stop it to give some commentary as well. So, and then we'll just take it from there and just let me know. Oh, the first thing I have to do is give a special thanks to, we have a super sticker from Ann Trower. Thank you so much, $10 from Ann. Thank you for supporting the channel. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you immensely. Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna pull up the footage, the Sarah Wallace coverage of this update, and then afterward, Ruby and I will go into why this is such a big deal right now. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. Here we go.
Assaults by correction officers, against inmates at New York State prisons.
Investigative reporter Sarah Wallace has been closely following one case and joins us with late dramatic developments. Sarah?
Well, Gilma and Adam, we have learned that multiple agencies are now investigating the case of Christopher Gillis, who told the I-Team he survived a vicious assault by guards one day before another inmate was beaten to death a month ago. We have now obtained records that show some of the same officers were involved in both incidents.
Oh, and just to stop it very quickly, I want everyone to ponder this. If the superintendent of Mid-State Correctional Facility, he could have done something to stop this.
100%.
Messiah Nantwi may have been alive if the superintendent would have taken action instead of lying, would have taken action to get these officers who beat Christopher, to get them, I mean, to do something. Maybe Messiah Nantwi would be alive today. Ruby, you wanted to chime in.
100%. On the 28th, I sent Brian Hilton, who is the superintendent of Mid-State, I sent him 3 emails telling him that the CERT team assaulted my nephew. He didn't even punch in his DIN. He thought he was on 4H. My nephew was on 4B. Had he punched in his DIN number, when I told him he was placed in SHU without medical care, maybe Messiah would still be here, because he would have had to say something to the CERT for, you know, investigatory purposes. And maybe that would have put a pause on it, but he didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
They came with 28 pictures, and I was able to point out every officer that attacked me that day.
Chris Quiles told me in a recent phone call that his story of being attacked by correction officers at Mid-State Correctional Facility is finally getting attention by state investigators, but only after 10 guards were indicted in connection with the beating death of Messiah Nantwi. That beating happened one day after Gillis says he was attacked by the same prison emergency response team, CERT, on February 28th.
When I first got assaulted, I got hit with a baton. And when I hit the floor, I was attacked by half of the CERT team right then and there.
Gillis says he was given this disciplinary ticket for assaulting officers, their narrative. And here's where the story takes the first.
Okay, I'm just going to pause it very quickly. So just for everyone on the stream now, we are going to be actually going over this disciplinary report live here tonight. We are going to be going over this because for those of you who are not new to the channel, we had Sean Chung, and I keep mentioning his name because he had such an amazing, just, you know, wealth of knowledge and information about the corruption in these infirmaries. He spoke about what we're going to read in this incident report in terms of all these incident reports sound the same. They're written using the same language. It's the same MO every single time. So I just want to highlight that we will be going over the actual document.
Gillis says the officers lied on the ticket to cover up their wrongdoing, adding he had an original copy of the ticket in his cell, but was afraid to send it to his attorney or family during a lengthy illegal strike by guards that began in mid-February. Inmates locked down. We've now obtained a copy of the ticket from his aunt.
He was afraid to send it out. There is a possibility of it never making it to its destination.
Why is the ticket important? It lists 2 officers implicated in the Messiah Nantwi case. One, Joshua Bartlett, suspended by the department without pay. He claimed he had to use body holds to subdue Gillis.
I wasn't able to see his face, but I definitely know it was him that hit me in the back of the head because he told me to get on the wall.
Did you resist at all?
No, I had no chance to resist. As soon as I heard him say that, I started seeing stars. I was on the floor in a fetal position, just trying to absorb all the blows I could take.
The ticket.
I'm just pausing it very quickly. So, you know, the terminology that I learned was, you know, they're claiming he spun off the wall, right? That he went to be patted down, and that's when he attacked an officer. We know This is absolute malarkey. It's absolute BS. And we had Patrick Stevens, who was on the show for Critical Talk, mention that if you are going to attack a corrections officer, you would not do so when you're back. I'm sorry, when you're facing the wall and your back is to the CO. That seems to be the least optimal opportunity to attack a corrections officer. Ruby, you want to say something? I saw your face change. And no. Okay.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And over. They're the aggressors each and every time.
Ticket is signed by Frank Chandler, a now former sergeant, indicted for manslaughter in Messiah Nantwi's death. He has pleaded not guilty.
I guess you could say he was the head boss. He was the head honcho.
It's unclear what happened to Bartlett legally. He was not indicted with other guards in Nantwi's case, but Special Prosecutor William Fitzpatrick did say that 6 unnamed Mid-State officers had agreed to plead guilty to crimes and cooperate with the investigation.
This ticket really ties them to a history and a pattern of abuse.
Gillis's aunt showed us multiple emails she wrote to prison officials the day her nephew said he was assaulted by members of CERT.
I actually tried to warn the facility by reaching out to the superintendent.
He said everything is fine, no one is hurt.
Gillis told us something else. He says he had sustained third-degree burns on his leg from a hot prison pipe and claims the officers tortured him after beating him.
They said, you either have 2 choices. You let us pepper spray you in your third-degree burn, or we're going to kill you and make it look like an accident. Which one do you want?
After we aired that story, Gillis told us state investigators came to collect his sock that he says he'd kept for evidence.
Okay. I just wanted to pause it for a quick second because, again, we have to give special props to Sarah Wallace for covering this. But I'm grateful, Ruby, that you came on because I don't think people understood the extent of the psychological torture that occurred. People have a tendency of focusing on the medical issues, the injuries to the body, the injuries, the injuries to the physical persona of that individual. What we don't talk about is the psychological torture that occurs to these individuals that occurred with Christopher. And I know, Ruby, I had cut up a part of your interview where you spoke about Christopher, being threatened, and they asked him, what does he have to live for? And that brought out emotion in you. But for me, it's important for people to fucking see that. People have to see that this is not just physical abuse that's occurring, that there's psychological torture, that this is not just bullies beating down the body. They're also looking to torment the individual behind bars. And it's a special level of sadistic, demonic force that does this. So we need to stop sugarcoating this. Like, enough with the sugarcoating. This is abuse. This is torture. This is our Abu Ghraib is here in New York State.
They sent my socks to the FBI lab to see if there was actually pepper spray.
There is no pepper spray incident listed on the ticket that got Gillis 30 days in punitive segregation. His aunt says she's been told by investigators the ticket is no longer in the system.
It's almost as if the assault never happened for docs.
But Rivera showed us this recent email where a top state investigator says we continue to thoroughly investigate the incident involving Christopher Quiles, and we anticipate both disciplinary and criminal referrals arising from our investigation.
I really hope that they're all charged. I really hope that everyone that was involved in this gets charged.
Gillis told us he definitively picked out 5 officers in the photos he was shown by investigators. A spokesperson for the Department of Corrections would only say the investigation is ongoing.
Sarah, you watch your reporting, and one of the first questions that come to mind is, what about body cams? Where are they?
That's a really good question. And the answer is that they're supposed to be wearing body cameras after the death of Robert Brooks in December. That is the policy. Christopher Quiles told us he doesn't remember any of the officers having body cams. And the special prosecutor in the Nantwi case said that he believes that some of the officers actually deliberately disabled them.
Wow. Sarah Wallace, important work. Thank you for staying on top of it. We appreciate it.
Okay, Ruby. So, so seeing all that, what what is significant to you when you see that? Because even though you were quiet, I saw your facial expressions, and you're a woman that you cannot hide what's in that brain of yours. It comes out through your face, right? So there was a lot happening there. So is there anything that stuck out for you that you want to bring forth?
Yeah, that ticket, that tier 3 ticket. So I called OSI to retrieve that ticket. His lawyer could not obtain that ticket. So when a ticket is dismissed, they remove it from the system.
Mm.
So it's like it really never happened for docs, right?
Wow. Mm.
Although they removed it, his attorney should always 100% have access to it because it was written and he has to be given the opportunity. And when I say his attorney, the PLS attorney that fights in-house tickets, disciplinary, he couldn't get it. So I called OSI. Let me just say, I spoke to one of the higher ups, like maybe 3 steps down from OSI, from the tippity top. And he said if his lawyer wants it, he can put in a FOIA request after the investigation is over. Okay. And how about the state troopers didn't know that Chandler and Bartlett was on that ticket this whole time they were trying to indict them?
Wow. Okay. So you were actually bringing up something very good. So let's make sure this gets the attention that it needs. Okay. So I'm going to bring up on the screen the actual ticket that we're talking about here, and then let's go into why it's important. But before that, a quick 15-second commercial for everyone on the chat. If y'all could please do me a favor, like the video, like the live stream, share it, subscribe to the channel. All that, social media stuff is very important to help getting this message out there. So thank you for sharing it, for liking and subscribing. Greatly appreciated. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up on the stage this ticket, and let's read it. Let's go over it briefly, and then we'll talk about why it's important. Okay. Okay. So this is the actual ticket here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just read it very quickly. So, and I'll read the description, and then above that you'll see number 3 has the rule violations, right? So there we see that this is dated February 28th, 2025. This is the date Christopher Quiles was beaten. Is that correct?
The time is important.
The time is important. So the incident time is 11:10 a.m. 11:10 a.m. So we have 4 rule violations listed, right? So for those of you on the chat, Ruby, do you know if this is considered like a tier 3 ticket? I've heard that terminology before.
It is.
Okay, so this is a tier 3 ticket, right? So we have refusing direct order. We have a demonstration. I'm not sure what that exactly means. We have interference with employee, and then we have refuse, search, or frisk. Okay, and this is the description of the incident. It says incarcerated individual Quiles, 22A 0146 showed up to the Foreside Mess Hall for a bandage dressing change. While speaking with the nurse, incarcerated individual Quiles became loud and combative, screaming, This is why we will be running this house. At this time, Officer Bartlett told incarcerated individual Gillis to place his hand on the wall and get in the pat frisk position. Once in the pat frisk position, Officer Bartlett began to pat down incarcerated individual Gillis. At this time, incarcerated individual Gillis came off the wall. And again, that's a term that we keep hearing from these COs in terms of what they write in their reports. Off the wall, attempting to strike Officer Bartlett with his left elbow. Incarcerated individual Gillis was not able to make contact with Officer Bartlett, and I'm wondering why he wasn't able to make contact. Maybe because it didn't freaking happen. I mean, that's my assessment. At this time, Officer Bartlett used body holds and forced incarcerated individual Gillis to the ground face first. Gillis struggled to get out of the body holds while yelling, quote, "You fucking with the wrong guy. I'm a pro fighter," end quote. Officer Manat responded and placed Gillis in a figure four type move. Gillis supposed to be continued to struggle. After several direct orders to place his hands behind his back, incarcerated individual Gillis' hands were forced behind his back. Officer Manat then was able to apply mechanical restraints to the wrist of Gillis. Once in mechanical restraints, all force ceased. And this is signed by Chandler, who's a sergeant. And also mentioned here directly in the description is Bartlett. So Ruby, talk to me.
Just a couple things that really just stand out, right? So they say Christopher threw an elbow. Now, Christopher is a mixed martial artist fighter. This is what he does. I don't think he's gonna miss the elbow on an unexpected person. He's just not gonna miss that, right? Then the statement he makes, this is why we're going to be running the house. He wasn't even in his house. He was in the mess hall. It makes no sense.
No.
Now, maybe if he was on the dorm and things happen and he says that, it might make sense. He's not even in his house to say that. He's in a mess hall. Yeah. Okay. And the sergeant brought him to that mess hall under false pretense, telling him he was going to get a dressing because he did have a 3rd-degree burn. Yeah. Okay. In that ticket, it says once they put the cuffs on him, that was the end of that. But then Krista wouldn't have had a pepper sprayed sock. So it's either what Christopher is saying happened or what they're saying happened.
And then in this report, there was no mention of Christopher being pepper spray.
No. Now they did put the restraints on Christopher. That part is true. After they beat him, they put the restraints on him and continued to beat him. Okay. And they did bring him to shoe. And they smashed his head against a door with another incarcerated individual in a cell. Okay. Wow. And then they had him hoist up his pants, or they could kill him and make it look like an accident. And the reason I asked you to read the time, 24 hours later is when they assaulted Messiah. I think his assault started, their thing is around 11:20 something, 11:23.
Yeah.
Within 24 hours. Okay. So when they told Christopher, you can let us, and you know, they called the pepper spray bastitration. We can kill you and make it look like an accident. You know, they really killed someone the next day. Okay.
Wow.
Within 4 hours, they took a life. And I do believe If Christopher's body wasn't conditioned, he may not have made it. And that is real. He was already scared and fearful because of what they had done to him. In that moment, he didn't know they really meant what they said, because they would kill you. Because 24 hours later, they killed someone. Okay. And yes, you spoke about torture and what happens, to the individual mentally. They'll live with that forever. If they have a broken bone, that may heal. A bruise will go away. But this,
No.
that's never going to be the same.
Yeah, and I have to be honest with you. Like whenever I hear any of these stories, the level of anger that I have in me, not even being a part of this, right? Not even seeing it firsthand or having to experience that. It brings out enormous anger in me, knowing that this happened. So I can't even imagine, you being the person who this happened to and having to live through that.
When you think about what they're doing, they are literally kidnapping these men and putting, what does a kidnapper do, right? They take you to a place where no one knows where you are.
Mhm.
Okay? These families don't know that their loved one was just kidnapped by a group of men to be beaten and tortured, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're kidnapping them, whether it's in the same facility or not, because I'm pretty sure the whole facility didn't know that he was being beaten in the van, or they had him in the strip room torturing him. And so there's a few things that have happened since the last time I was on.
Okay.
So OSI did go back in and they did show him a series of photos, and he was able to identify the rest of his assailants. Okay. Very important. However, it took OSI 50 days, 50
Mm.
since the incident, to go back and get those photos. Another thing they did, they took, so I say that they took his head and smashed it against the door. How about Mid-State fired housekeeping, honey, because they went back there and Christopher's blood was still on that door. And they took DNA from that door.
Wait. I'm sorry, because that's big. You're saying that what you said, OSI went back to the spot where Christopher had his head bashed,
On
and
the door where there was another incarcerated individual.
and this happened 50 days later. And his DNA and blood was on the door.
Yes.
Wow.
That sock where he was pepper sprayed, because it's not on his ticket that they pepper sprayed him, right? It did go to Quantico. FBI took it, they tested it, and it did come back positive for their pepper spray. Okay. And you have to think that what they did to Chris, they murdered, because that's what it is. They murdered Messiah the next day. If you look at Christopher's ticket, that ticket is dated the 28th. Christopher didn't receive his ticket until the 2nd. So it wasn't just Messiah's ticket. They have to now they backtracking. They have to make it all look good.
And so you had mentioned that this ticket you said it was no longer in the system.
No. So I had Christopher hide the ticket and keep it with him always, in fear that they would come search his cell and take it. Because the one thing Docs doesn't want is for you to have evidence. They don't want that. So if they were making it difficult for his attorney to get the ticket, is it safe really to send it? No, it's not. And the only reason we have access to the ticket is because the state troopers went to see Christopher.
Yeah.
Two different agencies. OSI is OSI. And I'm going to tell you something. My faith in docs and OSI, I don't have any. If you think about how they handled Christopher's case, me personally, okay, I was feeling like they were trying to intentionally sabotage the case. Why? The first investigator that went there with a faulty camera. He took original pictures of Christopher after the incident. His camera was faulty. Kept telling Christopher, oh, my camera's going black, and he's taking the battery in and out. He takes pictures of the pepper socks, take pictures of the blood. Once it was aired on Sarah Wallace, then they go back. Oh, shit. Oh, man, this is coming on TV. Now they pick up the sock. They log it into evidence. Okay? Then they wait 46 days later, 50 days after, to show him pictures? To gather DNA off of a door? Well, what if Mid-State would have cleaned it? Good thing they're sloppy, right? They're sloppy. Okay, and they fired housekeeping, so they didn't wipe down the handles and doors.
Wow.
You tell me if it was let's just say OSI's daughter, cousin, brother that was assaulted, do you really think that their investigator would show up with a faulty camera? Or wait 8 days to log evidence? Or wait 50 for a photo lineup? I promise that's not what would have happened. Okay, and the problem with that is that it looks like either OSI is incompetent, okay? They're just sloppy, or they really don't take the incarcerated's complaints seriously, okay? And none of them are good. None of them are good. And when you think about how many cases they have that are unfounded, how they handle Christopher's case makes it very clear why nothing is ever found. They never find evidence. By the time they get there 2 weeks too late, they're already healed up. And I think docs, OSI, we need an outside agency to check out what they're doing. Because I can tell you the email that came in, it didn't get no higher from OSI. Okay? That email that came in was because I went back and forth with how they were handling Christopher's investigation. Okay? 8 days later, you're logging it in, faulty camera. 50 days later, a lineup, DNA. I went back and forth with them. And let me just say this. So one of the investigators seen Christopher, and they told Christopher, listen, we're taking care of your case and we're doing what we have to do. And, we're from the same area. We're from your area. And your brother-in-law is a good friend of mine. And we know your sister. Christopher's like, what? He's like, yeah, flag football. They're trying to jog his memory and look and do us a favor. Your aunt is out there. She's making a lot of calls and stuff, man. Can you tell her, dial it back a little bit? She's getting us in trouble. What? What? Are you serious? Getting you in trouble? Tell me to dial it back? So who do I write? No one else but Darren Miller. He is the chief commissioner of OSI. And when he writes me back, he got the nerve to say they were merely commenting on, a lot of emails you sent. I only sent 2. And if 2 is too much, reassess your capacity levels. Do that. Because OSI is supposed to be there, okay, to truly investigate these excessive force claims and the wrongdoings that are happening at docks, and they're not. And it's leaving our people, my nephew and so many families, loved ones, vulnerable, susceptible to the beatings. believes them. And I'm going to tell you something, okay? If it wasn't because Christopher's case within the 24 hours of Messiah's passing, no one would even know. They wouldn't even hear about it.
Yeah.
The only thing that's making them make a move, I tell you what, is a person like Sarah Wallace. Put a little pressure on them. And it's horrible that it has to be that way. Maybe OSI needs help and needs to stop being so prideful. Maybe so many things are happening, they can't handle it all. But at that point, you don't fail so many people. All these people that are being hurt in there, they're counting on them to do their job.
Yeah.
They're not asking for a favor. They're asking you to do your job.
Yeah. Yeah. My quick feedback or my thoughts about OSI is this. It makes zero sense that you would have an internal department investigate their own organization of wrongdoing. It doesn't work that way. Plus,
Mafia.
plus it's we are looking at criminal acts. These are criminal acts that need to be investigated by an outside agency. It's sort of like, let's say if I do something wrong in my family and I have my cousin or I have my wife conduct an investigation, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think they're going to find any wrongdoing?
No, I'm going to ask
Or
a realistic question. If your wife had to
Yeah.
investigate you, how much would she let the public know? Especially if it would tarnish, okay, your reputation. How much is she going to tell us?
Yeah,
Not much.
not much.
Not
Not
much.
much. So you had mentioned that Christopher was visited by outside law enforcement agencies, that there was an investigation being conducted. Could you maybe, talk to us about that if you're privy to, if you can?
Yes. Yes. So after I seen the debrief, okay, with Marticello, Fitzpatrick, and then State Trooper Stephen James, and now they're indicted. I'm like, wait a minute. Now I call the state troopers. Hey, do you realize you just indicted the same guys that wrote my nephew's ticket and beat the crap out of? They didn't know. You know why? They couldn't access that ticket.
So, wow. So you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the special prosecutor's office could not gain access to any disciplinary tickets that these officers had written in docs? Is that what you're saying?
They were expunged from docs. How can they get something
Wow.
that doesn't exist? So I took it upon myself to contact the state troopers and let them know, listen, were you aware? Like, they heard Christopher was beaten by the SIR, but that it was the same officers? No, they did not know. So what did they do? They went in there, you Christopher, and that is how we have the ticket.
Wow. Interesting. Wow, I'm still shocked that, again, and correct me if I'm wrong, because if I seem off, it's because this is very hard to believe. So you're saying Fitzpatrick office could not access that disciplinary ticket that was written
They had
by
no idea.
Wow.
So now, let me just tell you what was said. Same officers. Wow, this is important. Now they see the ticket. Well, the DA needs to get this before he starts, cutting deals.
Yeah.
Now tell me why OSI didn't think it was that important to make sure they knew. Because if you remember, some were indicted, but there were 6 that already had taken deals and pled to felonies and misdemeanors. Bartlett wasn't in that courtroom. Could he
Yeah.
have been one that took and pled already? Now, would it
Wow. Interesting.
on what they were willing to offer him had they known that he was already involved in the same thing. He beat someone 24 hours before. Do you think they're just going to give him the same deal? That's like I commit a robbery today, and when tomorrow the DA that caught me the next day, if he knows I have something going on because I robbed a bank the day prior, he's not going to be as lenient. Okay.
Yeah.
He has to look at all the facts before he discusses anything. So tell me why docs didn't make sure they had that, because maybe the state troopers didn't know. Maybe the DA didn't know, but you know who did know? OSI knew.
Yeah. So those 6 correction officers, which potentially might include Bartlett, right? Have plea deals. They have not been executed yet, right? So they're pending, right? So typically, my understanding is when you are an attorney or prosecutor, that defendant has to disclose any other potential crimes that they did that were committed, and they have to make that admission of guilt in court, but they also have to have their attorney kind of speak with the prosecutor to say, hey, this is my involvement, this is what. So potentially that plea deal might be out the window based on this new information.
If it is the way you're saying, you have to consider that they haven't been charged for Christopher's case yet. So he doesn't have to admit to anything.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that is almost mind-boggling, because so Christopher was beaten the 28th. Messiah tragically lost his life on the 1st. Messiah, they've already been indicted. Oh, why they haven't been charged for Christopher yet? Because the state troopers are not covering Christopher's case. It's OSI. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There is a problem with docs and OSI, 100%. There's no reason why the state shouldn't have known. Knowing OSI knows, because now just know that OSI is working hand in hand with the state troopers in Messiah's case. They are working together. Tell me why the state troopers didn't know about that.
Wow.
They're gonna protect each other. Listen, maybe they can't cover you all the way, but if they could try a little, they could get away with a little. They've been getting away with it long enough. And how they did Messiah lets you know that. They did it in front of all the other incarcerated individuals, in front of National Guard. Okay? That'll tell you where they are mentally with it. No one is gonna believe them. They're so used to not getting in trouble, they became reckless and sloppy and took his life, because in their mind, this is their normal shit. This is what they do. Okay?
Yeah.
And we OSI docs, we need a whole separate oversight on them, 100%.
Yeah, and the thing is, the conspiracy that happened after Messiah Nantwi, like meeting at a diner called Raspberries. It sounds like something out of a bad Hollywood film.
The
You
food is
know?
good too. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
But yeah. But
So
you know what? They sat at Raspberries, okay, to conspire, because now they took his life. What are we gonna do now? Okay. But as you can see, for Messiah, for Christopher, they do get together. Okay. They talk about this, because obviously what was written in Christopher's ticket is not really what happened. And there it mentions Chandler, Bartlett, Monette. There was about 10 of them. There's only 3 on that ticket. It wasn't, he didn't just get beaten by 3 officers, about 10 of them. So where are the rest of them? So Chandler is the orchestrator there. Okay. Well, say this, don't say that, don't put me on. And I wonder if he did the same thing for Christopher's ticket. Okay, I'm going to leave you guys out of this one. This is what they do.
Yeah.
You know, it's unfortunate that this happens so often, and we're talking about the cases we do know about my nephew, about Messiah, about Brooks, you know, about Keon. There are so many that are being framed and set up. They're placed in shoe. Okay. So Pete, you know, like just to be forgotten. It's horrible. It's horrible. The system is deplorable. Okay.
Yeah. So has Christopher suffered any consequences? Has this affected his potential release date or anything to that effect? Has there been any consequences for him?
So these officers were walked out within the week. Tell me why they left Christopher in shoe for 30 days. 30 days he stayed in shoe, and they knew that these officers were dirty. There's no reason he should have been in shoe for 30 days. And on top of being in shoe for 30 days, so they have the ability, Docs has the ability to scrub shit right out of their system. Okay. As you can see, the ticket was scrubbed out of their system. His ASAT completion was scrubbed out of the system. So they put him in ASAT to do ASAT all over again. And what's mind blowing is that Christopher went to work release. Okay. He got disqualified for the work release, but you need ASAT to go to work release.
Yeah, and Ruby, for those people who don't know what ASAT is, would you mind just telling us what ASAT is?
It's a drug treatment program.
Okay.
They have to complete that in order to get to work release. So he went to work release. They know because that's in the system. They didn't scrub that part, right? But the fact that he completed ASAT is scrubbed, so they're making him do it all over again.
Wow.
Because it's not
Okay.
in the right. So if you screw up your work release, now there's something they do. It's a regression form of ASAT, which is 90 days. He completed that. So he was supposed to go to his board in May for a July release. Poof, he never completed it. So instead of coming July, it looks like they're whistleblower. They got to find a way to retaliate. Looks like they're going to hold them to 2026.
Wow. So basically, just for everyone to recap, you're saying that he completed ASAT, that was removed from his record in terms of completing ASAT, and because that's not on his record, that delays work release, his potential to do work release.
No, he did work release.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah, okay, so you do your ASAP program, you go to work release. If you mess that up, you have to go through a whole regression ASAP, which would be only 3 months. He also did that, but after the incident, the whole fact that he did any ASAT is gone. Not just what he needed to get to work release, but also his completion of the regression. The completion of the regression is what was allowing him to get to his merit board. Okay.
Oh, okay.
His merit board. But they took away the regression ASAT. So now he doesn't qualify for his merit board. And because they took away the ASAT completely, they're making him redo a 6-month program. And I'm like, the counselor is like, wait a minute, I don't know what is going on, but I have to put you in.
So if this ASAT was in the system, when would he have gone up to the parole board to be released? Like, what could have been his earliest release date?
July 12th, July 21st, July 21st. I'm sorry, July 21st.
Of 2025. So he could have been released July 2025, and because of this, now his upcoming potential release date is 2026? What month 2026?
End of 2026.
The end of 2026.
He has about another year and a half, a little over a year and a half to do. Yeah.
Wow. 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 So in terms of potential charges, I mean, you know, and by the way, just to do a little quick commercial, everyone, thank you for being on. We are, for those of you who just, came on, we are having a conversation with Ruby Rivera, who is the aunt of Christopher Quiles, who was beaten at Mid-State Correctional Facility the day before Messiah Nantwi. We had gone over the Sarah Wallace NBC4 New York coverage, which came out yesterday. So everyone, if y'all could do me a quick favor, please like the video, share it. Let's get this message out, and let's get this to people that need to see this, and people that are in positions that can take action to get one, Christopher out, the date he was supposed to be released, that potential date, and we want to see criminal charges, and charges specifically based on the beating that Christopher Quiles experienced. So what do you think, Ruby, is the possibility that we will see charges with these correctional officers that beat Christopher? Any updates or thoughts on?
I think charges are brewing for them. I did get an email, disciplinary and criminal referrals, are soon to come. Okay. And they need to be charged with gang assault because that's what they are. They're a gang in there. And all of our loved ones are their victims. Okay. And it has to stop. They have to truly make an example out of all of these officers. Okay. They need to be made examples of. They can't get away with this. It has been way too long. And honestly, if it wasn't for technology, none of this would even be out.
Yeah. And I think everyone out there, you have to put pressure on your district attorneys to take this seriously. You have to. You got to push these DAs, because it seems like they don't give a rat's ass about those people who are incarcerated.
It's not just the DA. They are so, I live in a small town, and there are many. I mean, I've heard the comments, well, he must have did something, and they're not just gonna do that. And you have no idea of what the incarcerated go through. You do have officers that just go in, get their money, do their job, and leave. And then you have some that go in there on a high horse. I don't know if they were bullied in school. They feel less than at home. They go in there really on some bullshit. You know what? Give respect, you get respect. And they really do think that, the incarcerated, they don't deserve any respect, as if they're less than human.
Wow. Wow.
No.
Okay. So at this moment, it does seem promising, right? You are optimistic that there will be charges against these officers.
It does, and they need to pay on every platform. They will get charged with something. Right now, I have to say that the same office of attorneys that are handling Messiah's case have now taken Christopher's case. Once you have a lawyer, they can apply some kind of pressure about what's going on in the investigation. And,
Do me a favor, say that again. What you just said.
The same office that have Messiah's case have now taken Christopher's case. Okay. Andrew Lawfer. Okay. His name is Andrew Lawfer. Great attorney, very passionate. He really does not like the whole excessive force, the abuse that has taken place. Very passionate man. God bless him. Okay. Because to be honest, there are lawyers that don't even want to go against docs. They don't want to go against the state. You have so many that just don't want to be part of that, so thanks to him too. But Christopher is not alone in this battle. And for families, I know it gets hard. You don't know who to talk to, who to call, what to do. The internet will give you all the information you need. Call them, harass them. Don't let up, don't give up, because fighting for your loved ones is draining, it's exhausting. But the second you stop, it continues and it gets worse. We have to all stick together. There are more of us than there are of them. They need to know.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to tell the audience at large? Any closing thoughts?
For everybody watching this, you're watching it because you're interested. It touches you some way. There is, I think, 46% of people, just in general, that know someone or have a loved one incarcerated. It affects them. It affects their thought process. If you could lend an ear, a hug, maybe they're going to a rally, go with them, support them, go on the visit with them, let the officers know that these people are not alone. You have to let them know they're not alone, and you are going to fight for them. You can reach out to other organizations if you need that support. There is Incarcerated Lives Matter. There is the Cattell. Now, these organizations are fighting for the incarcerated. They're letting all the families know of bills that are being passed. They need the support. If you don't know, Google what bills are supporting the incarcerated.
Yeah.
They need that support. Support each other, support the bills for all of us. And thank you for covering this. Sarah Wallace, you guys are doing amazing. I hope it gets where it needs to be. And I hope you do too. Because obviously,
thank you.
one doesn't care about the incarcerated. We know this. Some people, they committed a crime. They're the worst in the world. So for those that care, keep caring. Stay compassionate. Okay.
Yeah. And also think about this. People don't care unless it happens to you or someone you care about. And you just might be a second away from that happening, whether it's something happens to you or somebody you love. And then I want to see you talk about, I don't care about people getting beat when it's someone that you care about. Period.
No one, there are no exceptions. Maybe one day you're a mom that's like, I hate all criminals. They're all out there committing crimes. But you have a 17-year-old son that's out with his buddies, and maybe someone tries to assault him and he defends himself, slams him, breaks his neck, and here we have manslaughter. So you just don't know, right? And as people, we're not here to be judges. We're not here to judge anyone. We all will be judged one day, right? But we are the judge. We shouldn't be doing that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I thank you.
All right. So with that being said, Ruby, hold on. I just want to thank everyone for coming on the chat, for coming on the live stream. I really appreciate it. I want to give a special shout out to Ann Trower, who is the stream sponsor with her super sticker. Really appreciate you, Ann. Thank you so much for doing that. And with that being said, everyone, I just want to say thank you. Take care. God bless. And I will see you next time. Take care.